Windows 95 wasn't just an operating system, it was a cultural moment. It was the kind of moment where people lined up at midnight to buy a giant cardboard box full of floppy disks, manuals, and that mysterious certificate of authenticity nobody ever read. It was the era when software came with actual physical weight. You didn't just install Windows 95, you lifted it. This was the OS that introduced the Start button, the taskbar, and the idea that maybe, just maybe, computers didn't have to feel like you were negotiating with a stubborn robot. We're going back to 1995, when monitors were so deep you could hide snacks behind them, and when the phrase, "Don't touch the tower, it's installing something," was practically a family rule. Before Windows 95, using a PC felt like trying to hack into the Pentagon just to open Solitaire. Windows 3.1 was basically a graphical sticker slapped on top of MS-DOS. If you didn't know commands, you were done. You wanted to open a program? Type a command. You wanted to shut down? Type a command. You wanted to cry? No command needed. Computers back then were powerful, but they weren't friendly. They were like that one coworker who's brilliant but refuses to explain anything. Microsoft wanted to fix that. They wanted a computer your parents could use without calling you every 5 minutes. They wanted something that felt modern, intuitive, and maybe even fun. Windows 95 was their attempt to make PCs normal, approachable, and ready for the future. And when it launched, Microsoft didn't just release it, they launched it like it was the next Jurassic Park movie. They paid the Rolling Stones millions to use "Start Me Up," which is honestly the most literal marketing choice ever made. Jay Leno showed up and roasted Bill Gates' fashion sense. Stores opened at midnight. People lined up around the block to buy a box of software. Imagine telling someone today, "Hey, I'm camping outside Best Buy for an operating system." They'd assume you lost a bet. The biggest innovation wasn't flashy. It wasn't 3D graphics or holograms. It was a tiny button in the corner, Start. Before this, launching programs was like digging through a junk drawer. Icons everywhere. Program Manager windows stacked like a game of Tetris. Windows 95 said, "Let's put everything in one place so people stop calling tech support." And boom, the Start menu was born. The taskbar and system tray joined the party too. These features were so good that every OS since has copied them. Even macOS eventually added a dock because Windows 95 made the desktop feel like home. And yes, people still get angry when Microsoft moves the Start button. That's how iconic it is. You can redesign the entire interface, but if you touch that Start button, people will riot. Windows 95 also introduced Plug and Play, which promised to automatically detect your hardware. In theory, you plug in a device, Windows says, "Got it," and installs everything. In reality, you plug in a device, Windows panics, your sound card disappears, and suddenly your mouse is controlling your printer. People called it plug and pray, for a reason. But even with the chaos, it was a huge step forward. Before this, installing hardware meant flipping tiny jumpers on sound cards and fighting with IRQ settings like you were trying to defuse a bomb. You practically needed a degree in electrical engineering just to install a joystick. Windows 95 wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and it saved a lot of people from crawling under desks with flashlights, manuals, and a growing sense of dread. Under the hood, Windows 95 was a major upgrade. It introduced a 32-bit hybrid kernel, preemptive multitasking, and long file names. Finally, no more report1.txt. Programs ran smoother, faster, and crashed slightly less often. Slightly. Developers loved it. Gamers loved it. And your computer loved it, until you installed 14 toolbars and a screensaver that used 90% of your CPU. And then there was the Internet. When Windows 95 arrived, the Internet was still basically the Wild West. Most people didn't have it yet, and the ones who did had to listen to the dial-up modem scream like a robot being tortured. The original Windows 95 didn't include Internet Explorer, but the Plus pack added IE 1.0, and that kicked off the browser wars. For many people, Windows 95 was their first taste of the Internet. AOL chat rooms, GeoCities websites, animated GIFs everywhere, under construction, signs on every page, and that iconic "You've Got Mail" voice. It was chaotic but magical. It felt like stepping into a new world. A world where you could talk to strangers, download a picture in only 12 minutes, and accidentally tie up the phone line for the entire house. And let's not forget the dial-up struggle. You'd click connect, hear the modem screech, and pray nobody picked up the phone. If someone did, your connection dropped instantly. You could be downloading a 500 kilobyte file, which took, like, 20 minutes, and one phone call from your aunt would destroy everything. Gaming changed forever too. Before Windows 95, DOS was the king of gaming. Windows was something you closed so your game would run properly. Then came DirectX. DirectX gave developers a consistent way to access graphics, sound, and input. It paved the way for modern PC gaming and eventually the entire Xbox ecosystem. Without Windows 95, your favorite games today might not exist, or they'd still be running in 320 by 200 resolution with MIDI music that sounded like a robot playing a kazoo. Windows 95 also had personality. It had quirks. It had Easter eggs hidden by developers who were clearly having fun. There were secret credits, hidden messages, and weird little animations buried in the system. It was the kind of OS where you could accidentally break everything just by dragging the wrong icon, but you could also discover something cool by exploring. It felt alive in a way modern systems sometimes don't. And the screensavers, oh man, the screensavers. The flying Windows logo. The 3D pipes. The maze. These weren't just screensavers, they were entertainment. People would walk into a room, see the 3D pipes, and just stare at them like it was modern art. And honestly, it kind of was. The maze screensaver alone could hypnotize you for hours. It was like watching your computer dream. Even the installation process was nostalgic. You'd sit there feeding the computer floppy disks one by one like you were giving snacks to a very slow, very picky robot. Please insert disk 7. Now disk 8. Now disk 7 again because I forgot something. And if one disk was corrupted, congratulations, you were starting over. Its legacy is everywhere. The start menu, the taskbar, desktop icons, drag and drop, right-click menus. These ideas became the standard. Even smartphones today borrow from concepts Windows 95 popularized. And despite being almost 30 years old, people still boot it up in virtual machines, build retro PCs, and explore it for nostalgia. It's digital comfort food. Windows 95 was the moment computers became friendly. It made PCs something anyone could use, not just tech experts. It bridged the gap between the old world of command lines and the modern world of graphical interfaces. And maybe that's why people still talk about it. It wasn't just software, it was a cultural shift. It was the OS that brought the future into people's homes. So the next time you click your start menu, remember, that little button started a revolution and also froze your computer at least once a week. But hey, that was part of the charm.